Good evening, and welcome back to the Quiet Library. And tonight, I'd like to invite you somewhere extraordinary. Not to a battlefield, not to the palace of an emperor, not even to one of history's greatest monuments. Instead, we're going for an evening walk. Our destination is Rome, nearly 2,000 years ago. The sun is beginning to sink toward the western horizon. Its warm light stretches across tiled rooftops, temple columns, and narrow streets worn smooth by countless footsteps. For a moment, let's imagine that time itself has become unusually generous. The centuries quietly step aside, allowing us to walk through one ordinary evening in one of the history's greatest cities. So take a slow breath and listen carefully. Can you hear it? Not silence, but life. The distant rhythm of sandals striking stone, merchants calling out their final prices before closing for the day. The creak of wooden carts somewhere beyond the next street. A fountain flowing without interruption, and hundreds, perhaps thousands of conversations blending together into a sound unlike any modern city. Welcome to ancient Rome. By the first century of the Common Era, Rome had likely grown to more than 1 million inhabitants. Although historians continue to debate the exact number, there is little doubt that it was one of the largest cities anywhere in the world. People arrive here from every corner of the empire, from Britain, Egypt, North Africa, though Greece, Judea, and places even further away. Some came seeking opportunity, others were merchants, soldiers, craftsmen, teachers, artists. Some arrived willingly, while others did not. The Roman Empire depended heavily upon enslaved labor, and slavery was woven into many parts of Roman society. As we walk these streets tonight, we remember that this remarkable civilization contained extraordinary achievements and profound inequalities. History often asks us to hold both truths at the same time. Now, let's begin walking. The first thing that surprises many visitors is not what they see, but what they don't. There are magnificent marble temples, elegant public buildings, triumphal arches, yet most Romans did not live surrounded by marble. Most lived in apartment buildings called insulae. Some rose 5 or even 6 stories high. Families occupied surprisingly small rooms. Cooking was often done over simple charcoal braziers. Water usually came not from private plumbing, but from public fountains supplied by Rome's remarkable aqueducts. If you were expecting a city made entirely of white marble, you might be surprised. Ancient Rome was colorful. Many temples and statues were originally painted in vivid reds, deep blues, or bright yellows and rich greens. Time eventually washed much of that color away, leaving us with pale stone. But this evening, the city still glows with color. The air carries many different scents. Fresh bread cooling in nearby bakeries, olive oil, smoke from cooking fires, leather, rich leather, wet stone beside the fountains, herbs being prepared for the evening meal. Occasionally, less pleasant smells drift through the streets as well. Despite Rome's engineering achievements, sanitation was still uneven. Animals shared many of the roads. Waste management was far from modern. History is rarely as tidy as museum displays. The streets beneath our feet are busy. Children dart between adults laughing as they chase wooden hoops with small sticks. A dog pauses hopefully beside a bakery door. Two merchants continue negotiating a price, both convinced they deserve the better bargain. A traveler, dusty from days on the road, looks around with quiet amazement. Perhaps he has never seen a city this large before. But neither have we. As daylight begins to fade, something else begins to change: the pace. The urgency of the day slowly softens. Shops prepare to close, families begin gathering in their homes. The evening meal draws near, and somewhere ahead, the marketplace is waiting for us. Let's continue our walk. The sky has grown softer now. The bright gold of late afternoon has given way to shades of amber, and the long shadows stretching across the streets remind us that another day in Rome is drawing to a close. As we continue our walk, the sound of voices becomes louder. We have arrived at one of the city's marketplaces. Markets existed all throughout Rome, scattered across different neighborhoods. Some specialized in vegetables, others in livestock, others in imported luxuries. Every district had its own rhythm, its own familiar faces, its own favorite merchants. Unlike the supermarkets of today, shopping in ancient Rome was rarely quiet. Nearly everything involved conversation. Questions, negotiations, recommendations, sometimes even friendly arguments over the price of olives or fresh fish. A baker smiles as he removes the last warm loaves from his oven. Bread was one of the foundations of the Roman diet. Some loaves were simple, others contained herbs or seeds. Many Romans visited bakeries daily because most apartment homes had no practical way to bake large quantities of bread themselves. Nearby, a woman examines baskets filled with figs, grapes, or apples, dates brought from distant provinces. The Roman Empire stretched across 3 continents. Its enormous trade networks carried food farther than many people can imagine. Grain arrived from Egypt, olive oil from Hispania, modern day Spain, wine from Italy, Gaul, and Greece. Spices traveled thousands of miles through trading routes that reached toward India and beyond. As evening approaches, the market becomes a quiet map of the ancient world. Every stall tells a story about somewhere else. Here, a merchant carefully pours olive oil into a customer's clay container. There, a fish seller is packing away his remaining catch before tomorrow's sunrise. Not far away, someone offers something that nearly every Roman household would recognize: garum, a fermented fish sauce. Its smell could be overwhelming to unfamiliar visitors, Yet Romans added it to countless dishes, much as many kitchens today rely on soy sauce or other savory seasonings. Tastes change. Human habits often do not. A little farther ahead, we notice something quite unexpected. There are very few large painted shop signs. Many people in the empire could read, especially among the educated, but literacy was far from universal. Instead, shopkeepers often used symbols. A carved boot might mark a shoemaker. A painted bunch of grapes could identify a wine cellar. A loaf of bread might hang outside a bakery. Images guided customers just as effectively as words. Coins passed from hand to hand, clanking softly. Most every day, purchases are made with bronze or copper coins. Silver denarii are more valuable and often reserved for larger transactions. Roman money traveled astonishing distances. A coin minted in Rome might eventually find its way to Britain or Egypt or the frontier along the Danube. Even something as ordinary as paying for supper connected people across the empire. Now listen carefully. Do you hear the different languages? Latin surrounds us. It is the language of government, law, and daily businesses, but it is not the only language spoken here. A merchant from Alexandria bargains in Greek. A sailor from Syria speaks with companions from the eastern provinces. Travelers carry accents from North Africa, Judea, and beyond. Ancient Rome was not a city of one people. It was a city where cultures met every single day. As the final customers drift away, wooden shutters begin closing. One after another, a merchant sweeps dust from the doorway before looking up. Another counts the day's earnings beneath the glow of a small oil lamp. Tomorrow, before sunrise, the marketplace will awaken once more. But tonight, its busiest hours have passed. Ahead of us, steam rises gently into the evening air. A familiar destination awaits, the public bath, perhaps the greatest social gathering place in the Roman world. Let us continue our walk. The streets become a little quieter now. Many merchants have gone home. Families are gathering for their evening meals. But one place in the city is still full of life. Ahead of us, warm light spills through wide entrances. Laughter echoes softly against stone walls. The steady sound of running water greets us long before we reach the door. We have arrived at one of Rome's public baths. To a modern visitor, the word bath may sound misleading. This was far more than a place to wash. It was in many ways the social heart of the city. People came here to exercise, to meet friends, to discuss politics, to make business arrangements, to read, to relax. Some of Rome's largest bath complexes even included gardens, lecture halls, libraries, and shaded courtyards where people could just stroll. For many Romans, an afternoon at the bath was part of ordinary life. The entrance fee was often quite modest, making the bath accessible to much of the population, although the experience still varied according to wealth, status, or age, and whether one visited a grand imperial complex or a smaller neighborhood bath. But as we step inside, warm air gently surrounds us. The floors beneath our feet are of smooth stone. The walls are decorated with carved marble and painted plaster. Above us, light filters through high windows, catching tiny curls of steam that drift lazily toward the ceiling. The Romans were remarkable engineers. Beneath many bathhouses lay an ingenious heating system known today as the hypocaust. Large furnaces heated air beneath raised floors and inside hollow spaces within the walls. The warmth spread throughout the building without anyone ever seeing the fire itself. For visitors 2,000 years ago, it must have seemed like magic. Our walk begins in the apoditorium, the changing room. People place their clothing into small niches in the walls. Some wealthy Romans brought attendants to watch over their belongings. Others simply trusted that everything would still be there when they returned. From there, many visitors stopped first in the exercise courtyard. Young men throw balls back and forth, others practice wrestling, some jog slow circles around the open space. A few older Romans choose a gentler walk beneath the columns instead. Exercise prepared the body before bathing, not unlike a modern gym before a spa. Now we enter the warm room, the tepidarium. The air is comfortably heated. Conversations become quieter here. People sit on stone benches, allowing their bodies to adjust. The warmth encourages relaxation after a busy day. Beyond it lies the caldarium. Steam rises in gentle waves. Hot water fills broad pools. Bronze basins shimmer in the soft light. Some visitors rinse away the dust collected from Rome's street. Others simply close their eyes for a few peaceful moments. Soap, as we know it today, was not commonly used for bathing. Instead, many Romans rubbed olive oil onto their skin. Then they used a curved metal tool called a strigil to gently scrape away the oil along with dirt and perspiration. It may sound unusual to us, but for centuries it was a familiar part of daily life throughout much of the Roman world. Finally, some visitors make their way into the frigidarium, the cold room. The water is clear, refreshing, a sharp contrast after the heat. The sudden chill leaves many smiling as they step back into the evening air. Around us, the bath remained full of conversation. A lawyer quietly discusses tomorrow's court case. Two merchants negotiate the price of a shipment arriving from faraway land. An elderly teacher explains a line of Homer to a curious student. And nearby, someone sits alone in a library, a club. A scroll rests open in his hands. The world slows. The bath reminds us that Rome was not built only by generals and emperors. It was built by ordinary people who ended long days talking with friends, reading books, sharing ideas, caring for their health. finding moments of peace amid the noise of a great city. Outside, darkness has now settled over Rome. Oil lamps flicker along the streets. The evening is growing cooler. Our walk is not yet over. One final part of the city still awaits us. Not the Rome of monuments, but the Rome of home. The neighborhoods where families gather for supper. Children grow sleepy, and another ordinary day quietly comes to an end. As we leave the warmth of the bath, the air feels much cooler now. Night has settled gently over the city. The brilliant blue of the Roman sky deepened into dark velvet. Above us, the first stars begin to appear. Without electric lights, the heavens seem astonishingly bright. The Milky Way stretches across the darkness like a pale river of light. For countless generations, Romans looked up at the same sky. Though the city below has long since changed, the stars above remain remarkably familiar. The streets are quieter now, not silent. Rome is almost never silent, but the sounds have softened. The clatter of commerce has faded. In its place come quieter rhythms, doors closing, laughter drifting from an upstairs window, the gentle splash of water spilling from a public fountain, the distant bark of a dog somewhere beyond the next alley. As we wander into one of Rome's residential neighborhoods, the city begins to reveal a different side of itself. Not the Rome of triumphal processions, not the Rome of senators, but the Rome where ordinary people live their lives. Many families occupied modest apartments inside the insulae buildings. These structures lined much of the city. The wealthiest residents often lived on the lower floors, where carrying water and groceries required less effort. Higher floors were generally less expensive. The climb could be long, especially after a busy day. Most apartments were small. Many consisted of only one or two rooms. Privacy, as we think of it today, was scarce. Families lived close together. Neighbors knew one another's routines. Children filled the stairways with laughter. Life unfolded within earshot of everyone nearby. Not every Roman lived this way, of course. Beyond these crowded streets stood elegant townhouses known as domus. Behind plain exterior walls, many concealed peaceful interior courtyards filled with flowers, small fountains, fruit trees, colorful frescoes. These homes were designed around an open central space called the atrium, where rainwater collected in a shallow basin before being stored for household use. To someone walking past outside, very little of that beauty would have been visible. Roman homes often appeared surprisingly modest from the street. Their greatest comforts were kept within. Perhaps there is a lesson hidden in that. The most beautiful parts of a life are not always the ones displayed for the world to see. As the evening meal begins, the aromas drifting through the neighborhood change once again. Fresh bread, lentils, vegetable stews, roasted fish, olives, cheese, seasonal fruit. For wealthier households, there may be poultry, wild game, or carefully prepared seafood. But for most Romans, meals were quite simple, nourishing, shared together whenever possible. Inside one apartment, a grandmother tells stories to children who have heard them dozens of times before, yet they listen as though each tale were entirely new. Across the street, a father carefully repairs a worn leather sandal by lamplight. Nearby, a young woman practices writing letters onto a wax tablet, smoothing the surface and beginning again whenever she makes a mistake. An elderly neighbor waters herbs growing in clay pots beside a window. These moments will never appear in marble statues. No emperor will record them. No triumphal arch will celebrate them. Yet together they form the true heartbeat of the city. History often remembers extraordinary people. Archaeology reminds us that civilizations are built by ordinary ones. As our walk continues, the streets become emptier still. Oil lamps flicker in windows before disappearing one by one. Wooden shutters close against the cool night air. Somewhere in the distance, a watchman begins his nightly rounds. Rome is preparing for sleep. And so, perhaps, are we? There is only one final walk left to take, one last quiet journey through sleeping city before we say good night. The hour has grown late. The streets that welcomed merchants, travelers, and children only a few hours ago now belong to the quiet. We continue our walk slowly. There is nowhere we need to be. No appointment waiting. No destination except the peaceful end of another ordinary day. Rome, for all its greatness, has become surprisingly gentle. Oil lamps glow behind wooden shutters. Their light escapes only throughout narrow cracks. The city's magnificent temples stand silently beneath the stars. The Forum, so full of voices during daylight, now rests beneath the moonlight. The marble columns cast long shadows across the empty square. Tomorrow, senators will return here. Lawyers will argue. Merchants will bargain. Crowds will gather. But tonight, even history is asleep. Ahead of us, a public fountain continues its endless work. Fresh water arrives from distant hills through one of Rome's great aqueducts. Hour after hour, day after day, year after year. Some of those aqueducts carried water for dozens of miles before reaching the city. Built with remarkable precision, they relied largely on gravity, descending only slightly gradually over long distances. Even now, nearly 2,000 years later, parts of several Roman aqueducts still stand. A quiet reminder that careful craftsmanship can outlive the people who created it. A cat slips silently across the street. Somewhere nearby, a donkey shifts its weight inside a stable. From an upper window, someone quietly closes wooden shutters before finally retiring to bed. A baker is already awake again. His work begins long before sunrise. Soon the smell of fresh bread will once again drift through these streets. A woman tending a small inn, checks the fire one last time before covering the embers for the night. A traveler, exhausted after weeks on Roman roads, finally finds uninterrupted sleep. Life never completely stops. It simply changes its pace. As we approach banks of the river Tiber, the water reflects the moon like polished silver. Small boats rock gently against their moorings. Tomorrow they will carry again wine, marble, olive oil, timber, and people whose names history will never record. Yet without them, the empire itself could have never functioned. History often remembers emperors and victories and great monuments, famous speeches, but those stories are only part of the picture. Ancient Rome was sustained by countless ordinary lives. Farmers harvesting wheat beneath the summer sun, builders laying one stone upon another, teachers guiding curious students, parents comforted frightened children, friends laughing after a long day's work. In that way, Rome was not so different from our world. Across thousands of years, across different languages, different customs, different beliefs, the rhythm of ordinary human life remains remarkably familiar. We all hope, we all worry, we all celebrate and grieve, and at the end of each day, we all search for a place where we can finally rest. Perhaps that is one reason history continues to comfort us. It reminds us that we are merely a part of a story much larger than ourselves. The people who walked these streets could never have imagined that someone 2,000 years later would quietly retrace their steps on a peaceful evening. Nor could they have imagined that their homes, their markets, their bathhouses, and their ordinary routines would still inspire wonder. Our walk is nearly over now. The city grows still. The moon climbs a little higher above the rooftops. A cool breeze moves gently throughout the narrow streets. Somewhere, a final lamp is extinguished. And ancient Rome, the greatest city of its age, falls peacefully asleep. Thank you for spending this evening in the quiet library. Tonight we did not witness a battle. We did not meet an emperor. We simply shared a quiet walk through the everyday life of one of history's most remarkable cities. Sometimes, these ordinary moments tell us the most about the past. The library will be here when you're ready to return. Another volume is already waiting on the shelves. Until then, may your mind grow a little quieter. May your curiosity never fade. And may your sleep be peaceful tonight. Good night.